of how you would integrate an auditory verbal intervention program within a school setting using curriculum as your base. So now let's look at what is the criteria for auditory verbal intervention. Well, certainly the students would need to present with a speech and language delay that was due specifically to their hearing impairment. They would need to be in their home school placement. Parents would need to be committed to the principles of auditory verbal practice. Parents would need to have a commitment to attend regular sessions in the school and to follow up on those sessions in the home setting. Finally, it's really important that students demonstrate consistent growth in listening, speech, language, and academics. And if the students are not demonstrating the growth that you would expect from the auditory verbal intervention programming, then we would look at other areas along the continuum of service delivery that might be more appropriate for that student. So let's talk for a minute about reporting. An auditory verbal intervention program would require reporting at least twice within the academic school year. Auditory verbal progress reports include personal information about the students, their name, date of birth, their teacher, background information about their audiological profile and the technology they're wearing, their progress since the last reporting period, their assessment results, goals for the next reporting session, and recommendations. As an auditory verbal interventionist and a teacher of the deaf, I find that the reporting lends itself very well to the regular report card systems. I tend to have a formal report that goes out in January that talks about the goals and the progress of the student in the fall term from September to December. And then I have another report that usually goes out in June, and that covers the goals and the progress from January to June. You saw in the videos me working with students and integrating academic subjects with the auditory verbal skills. In order to do that most effectively, it's really important that you work closely with the entire school team. And that would include teachers, special education professionals in the schools, any administrators in the schools, or any other support personnel that comes in. As the AV practitioner and teacher of the deaf, you are the advocate for that student in the school. I can't state enough the importance of having a really good relationship with the classroom teacher, a real collaborative relationship, because it's from that classroom teacher that you are going to get the material you need to integrate your auditory verbal skills with the classroom curriculum. Because our students are mainstreamed in typical classrooms, you always need to base your auditory verbal skills on supporting the school curriculum. And that would involve reinforcing your goals with literacy, numeracy, and any other subject, social studies, science, and any other subjects where they need the support in school. Pre-teaching the classroom concepts and vocabulary is really important for our students. It allows them to go back to their classrooms and already have a head start on the language structures, the speech, and a basic understanding of the concepts. And finally, it's very important that we share, as auditory verbal practitioners, that we share the information that we learn with parents and teachers on a regular basis so that we collaborate as part of a team. In an auditory verbal intervention program, parents and caregivers are really at the center of our program. They would attend weekly sessions in the home or in the school, and within those sessions, we help families integrate our AV goals with curriculum and their home setting. You'll probably notice that it is challenging, especially as the students get older, to have the parents come to the school as much on a regular basis. It is still ideal to promote parent visits as often as possible. But in the case where parents cannot come weekly, look at some creative solutions. Perhaps they can come every second week, or even once a month. Perhaps you can videotape some of your sessions and send them home. At the very least, it's important to have a communication book where parents are kept abreast of all the strategies and skills you're working on, as well as the curriculum information that they need to work on at home. In my experience, the difference between strong parental involvement versus less strong parental involvement can mean the difference between how fast a student moves through the curriculum and their auditory verbal skills and whether or not they are able to maintain an integrated placement in a mainstream class. That is why it's so important for every jurisdiction to have a continuum of service delivery. Not all students will make the same progress, and students will need to have access to a variety of different options in order to demonstrate their success. I've been fortunate to have been in environments where we have a continuum from auditory verbals and hearing resource services to partially integrated programs, community classes, and of course the secondary resource program. Over the past 25 years in the field of deaf education, I have seen huge changes and very positive changes occurring. With newborn infant screening and early intervention programs, as well as the access to greater advances in technology and more specialized support, there's much more opportunity for students to have success within their home schools. However, success in home schools does not happen in a vacuum. It involves many people collaborating together. Boards and jurisdictions need to make a commitment to hiring trained teachers of the deaf and certified LSLS AV professionals. Boards of education also need to make a commitment to hire or consult with educational audiologists and FM technicians. They make a great difference to the students. Finally, that core team needs to work very closely with the school teams, the classroom teachers, special education teachers within schools, speech-language pathologists, psychologists, physical and occupational therapists, parents, and any community agencies in which the child is involved in. AV intervention cannot work without a strong commitment from school board administration and the special education advisory committees within school boards. Resources have to be allocated in order for these programs to be able to thrive. If you have access to auditory verbal mentors, either internally within the school district or externally, it's a great way to build capacity among the deaf and hard of hearing staff within that board. It also promotes a consistent service delivery among all staff. And that leads to seamless transitions between teachers from year to year. It's great professional development for all the teachers of the deaf. And if you have access to internal coaching, it promotes an atmosphere of collaboration, especially in the areas of assessment, planning, and reporting. I hope you've learned that auditory verbal intervention in schools is achievable. At first, it takes a little bit more planning and organization, but the benefits pay off in the end when there's consistent programming, when you have a very good sense of what the students can do and what they can't do, and their progress from year to year.